first episode is nothing but the presenting of what he claims are facts and hints that his conclusion is right. There is no argument to be found at all.
I agree, but I must admit that I don't think your point is relevant. His argument is spread across 4 videos, not just the first one.
But what makes it pseudo-intellectual is only the illusion of meaningful content that it has.
By itself, it's not very meaningful. Within the context of the other 3 videos, it has merit.
I base that assessment off of what his viewers think of it in the comments.
I looked at some of the comments, not all, but some, under the first video, and I did not find anyone who thought Dan's argument was yet complete. All I saw were people sharing their own opinions and advice on the subject, giving their support, and waiting for the next installment of the series. In my opinion, an argument doesn't actually need to convince anyone of its value before being pseudo-intellectual. As far as I'm concerned, an argument is pseudo-intellectual as soon as it has been submitted for a purpose it does not in fact serve. Furthermore, I would not deem an argument pseudo-intellectual just because someone misunderstood the purpose for which it was intended. It would only be that one person's interpretation of the argument that I would deem pseudo-intellectual, not the argument itself. The question I think you should ask yourself is, do I think the argument or presentation serves the purpose for which I suspect it was intended? If not, then I think you should proceed by identifying what you think the purpose is and explaining how the material does not serve that purpose.
He claims that to find out if the Hebrew that wrote Isaiah thought the earth was flat, we should look at the English words found in the English translation?
Not quite. The idea is to translate Hebrew into English. So yes, we do want to look at English words found in English translations. But instead of looking at one source only and one context only for each word, multiple sources and multiple contexts were observed.
I find it also quite interesting that he went through so much trouble finding varying opinions of this verse from apologists without even bothering to do some real research himself. This could have been accomplished by doing a quick search for the Hebrew word that is translated circle to see how it is used in different contexts.
Well, he did, and I thought under the circumstances his research was exemplary. I disagree with his decision to focus on formal translation rather than dynamic translation. But other than that, the only thing he could do more is get a degree in language studies and learn Hebrew.
After all, the best way to learn another language is to hear the varying words in different situations. What do we find when we search the Old Testament for the Hebrew word kahug? We find 3 verses. One of them is found in Job 22:14. Thick clouds are a covering to him, that he seeth not, and he walketh in the circuit of heaven. The word circuit is the Hebrew word kahug. Now, you expect me to believe that the Hebrew-speaking guy looked up at the sky and thought, 2-dimensional circle?
You act as if Dan didn't even mention Job 22:14 in his videos. If you watch his videos, you'll see that he is well aware of Job 22:14, and he said,
Let's talk about the circuit of heaven later on, but for now, all that we need to take away is that walking in a circle is probably more meaningful than walking in a sphere. Next, Proverbs, and also the circle of the earth, and indeed the circuit of heaven, as I will show in later videos. It's the very same circle that wisdom witnessed God drawing upon the surface of the primeval waters. However, I will be backing that up and explaining all that in a future video. Suffice to say, all we have to take away from this now is that circle really does mean just that, circle.
From the clip we just saw, I would infer that Dan thinks Job was saying, God walked the path of a circle while in heaven, as he inscribed the circle of the earth. Never did he imply that he thought Job looked up at the sky and thought, 2-dimensional circle. I think your argument that the word kahug could be a reference to a sphere in Job 22:14 is definitely plausible. However, given Dan's analysis of the word line as seen in such verses as Isaiah 44:13 and Job 38:5, I may think it is less likely that the word kahug could be a reference to a sphere in Proverbs 8:27 or Isaiah 40:22. It seems to me that in these books, God is being depicted as an engineer, using the engineering tools of the era in which these books were written. In summary, I find all of Dan's material to be relevant and serves the purpose for which it was intended. I will admit, however, that I don't think the material serves the purpose for which it was intended to the extent that it might have been intended. And I also like to admit that I strongly disagree with your decision to insult someone who, as far as I could tell, was very respectful, mature, and dignified in his presentation.